You won't believe what this dog actually did to prove her love for her owner. Do you remember Hachiko, the Japanese dog who waited for his dead owner for about 9 years? His utmost loyalty towards his master was very much surprising. We usually don't expect such intense sentiments from animals, but apparently dogs are different. And if you still have apprehensions regarding that, then check out this unbelievable story about a dog who traversed all the possible limits to save the life of her owner. She'll remind you of Hachiko for sure. Jim Cooper, an old man living in Sandy, Utah, has an interesting story about himself and his pet to pass on to his forthcoming generations. This happened in 2017 when 82-year-old Cooper got a serious ailment that would have proven life-risking. It was 2 a.m. in the morning when Jim was fast asleep with his wife Judy on their bed, but the room had one more occupant. It wasn't long ago when the couple had adopted the dog, an Australian Shepherd Heeler mixed puppy. Initially, this dog failed to impress Jim. He was reluctant to keep the animal at home and even pondered over sending her back from where they'd brought her within a week. But Jim decided to give one more chance and with his wife started to give great training to their pet. Perhaps the best decision he made ever. On the evening of the incident, Thibodeau was sleeping in the bedroom of her owner, and the couple should thank their lucky stars for that because had she not been there, something hideous would have taken place that night. It all began when Thibodeau awoke Judy in the wee hours. A whining noise disturbed Judy's sleep. At first, she failed to figure out what it was. She thought perhaps her husband was seeing a nightmare. But the whining didn't stop, so she reached over to Jim to ask what was wrong, but all she could manage to get was a peculiar silence. Judy, sensing a problem, leaned over to turn on the light. The sight she perceived left her in the doldrums. Jim was lying still in bed, but Thibodeau was sitting on top of him, and that was not an amicable scene at all. Judy recounts that horrible moment and speaks about the dog on all fours just sitting on Jim's chest. The puppy was looking and whining for Jim. That must have been a shocking sight to behold. The sight jolted her out of perplexity and she figured out her husband was in danger. In fact, she immediately realized that she needed medical assistance for her husband without delay. Consequently, Jim was taken to hospital in time. Later, it was found that Jim had a stroke. It occurs when the blood supply to a section of the brain is stopped, depriving the tissue of oxygen and important nutrients that are usually transported there via the blood, making stroke the second largest cause of death globally. Luckily, Jim and Judy got through it without harm. All credit goes to the doctor and Thibodeau. The day would have been different for the couple had their pet not acted in time. The dog was only 7 months old when the incident happened. Jim's doctors revealed that it's difficult to save stroke victims and very fortunate few of them recover. The prime reason behind doctors' failure to save the victims is the delay in bringing the patient to the medical assistance. But that wasn't the case with Jim. He was taken to hospital early enough to treat it. Judy's greatly thankful for their dog and finds herself lucky to have her. Had the dog not noticed and whined in the bed, Judy would have failed to register that tragic transpiration, and her ignorance would have had Jim cost his life. She says, "I guess I would have woken up the next morning and lost him." Interestingly, Jim doesn't remember the incident. However, Judy told him everything about that and how he owes his life to Thibodeau. She goes on to say, without the dog, he wouldn't have made it. From there on, Jim sees his pet differently. Now he has high regards for her. He calls her a hero and believes she should be awarded a medal. She deserves it. Despite being proven wrong by his dog, he loves her a lot. He says, "Quite honestly, I was about to take her back the first week, but he delayed that for some unknown reason. How lucky he must be considering himself now to not follow a decision. The dog has proven her worth." Thibodeau, who succeeded in changing her owner's mind about her, is now a proud member of the family. "She's a good dog," says Jim. He took a few days to recover and his pup was always there with him for his recuperation stint and after. The loyalty of dogs is not only limited to Jim's life. Bob, another dog owner, owes his life to his dog. The pet of Bob from Michigan helped him stay alive. While going out to fetch some firewood, Bob slipped and fell, breaking his neck. It was freezing outside and no one was around to hear his scream. He wouldn't have survived without his beloved dog. The temperature was very low and Bob hadn't worn a lot of clothes to keep himself from the cold, as he thought he'd only be out for a few seconds, but he unfortunately met an accident and failed to get up. His dog Kelsey, seeing his master in trouble, swung into action and covered him by lying on top of him to keep him warm. Along with that, he barked continuously to get help. Luckily, only after 24 hours they received help. They got it only because his neighbor managed to hear his dog and called 911. Although he had to spend days in rehab after the incident, he survived the tragedy only because of his dog Bob, just like Jim considers his pet a true hero ever since.